Hi everyone. In this video, I will be reviewing my CR1 essay using the provided rubric, and I will do so category by category. The first category has to do with the identification of problems, issues, or topics, as well as the examining the assumptions surrounding them. I think my title, abstract, and introduction have identified these parts pretty well. I clearly define the issue as the tension between lean global optimization and resilience in Canadian aerospace manufacturing, especially under certification constraints. For assumptions, however, I will give I think level 3 is a better description. I did identify assumptions behind lean systems, like predict lead times and slow variability. And I also challenged the assumption that resilience just means more inventory. What I could have improved is to be more explicit about my own assumptions, like whether module level certification oversight is realistic for the context of Canadian aerospace manufacturing, or whether all suppliers can adopt the same traceability system, because that is absolutely no small undertaking. The next category pertains to the analysis of everything. Mainly it pertains to how I have used my method, whether it's clearly defined or properly used and selected and used. Also, it has to do with whether I provided alternate points of view. I will give a level 3, maybe close to level 4 for my method because I did clearly define my method with respect to the problem. With this method, I compared lean versus resilience. I discussed examples that propose a decision framework. However, I would not probably claim like a full level 4 because some parts of my framework I argued more conceptually rather than supporting with direct evidence. The rubric says a strong has the position that, quote, takes into account the complexities of an issue and acknowledges the limit of position. I think I did that pretty well because I explained why global specialization exists, especially as the status quo of Canadian aerospace sector. I explained why the proximity to FAA regulation can help and why domesticating everything could create costs and bottlenecks. I think my weakest category would be category C because while I did cite many sources, I did interpret them instead of just summarizing them, and they do support my arguments. However, I could have improved the quality of sources by using the stronger primary sources instead of some of the news reports, especially for certification and regulatory claims. Some of my important points would be more credible if I directly cited organizations like FAA or Transport Canada, or I could have cited industry standards directly. To achieve level 4 for category D, I need to thoroughly consider the limitations to my problem solution. I did spend a lot of time discussing the limitations like cost, bottlenecks, capability gaps, protected know-how, intellectual property, and the challenge of just changing the ongoing paradigm. But I think I could have made this stronger by talking a little bit more about some edge cases like what happens if a smaller supplier cannot meet the requirement before it can be integrated into this cohesive system. For integration, I think I would put myself somewhere close to level 4 because the difference between level 3 and 4 is that for level 4, I need to transform ideas or solutions into entirely new forms or ways of thinking. I qualify that because I did propose a decision framework that will change the paradigm of the current state of Canadian aerospace manufacturing because it works directly against the current model where a single component from its source material to final product, it could go many times between the border. That's exactly what I was trying to design against. So that is definitely new. Therefore, it qualifies for level 4. For conclusions or solutions, I would give this essay at least a level 3 because the conclusion is definitely supported by opposing viewpoints instead of cherry-picked information. Maybe it could be a level 4 because my essay compares and contrasts only two viewpoints, and both these viewpoints are discussed with roughly equal priority. Category E evaluates the creativity of my essay. I went beyond the superficial view where certification friction is seen simply as a regulatory burden, and I reframed it as an information problem. I also introduced the idea of turning process modules along a product's value stream into separate plants, so that the entire supply chain looks like a microscopic production layout. This is where I think the essay goes beyond using sources and actually contributes a new way of thinking about the problem. By proposing a framework instead of writing a basic pro versus con essay, I took a strong intellectual risk. I also wrote this essay with a tone that is appropriate for a technical or academic audience. I do recognize that my essay seeks to transform the operational paradigm of Canadian manufacturing as a whole, and implementing the changes will be costly in terms of both time and money. It has definitely gone beyond the guideline of the assignment, which I think should give it at least a level 3 or 4 in risk taking. If I were to revise the essay, I would do the following three things. First, I would provide more primary or authoritative sources like industry standards or FAA or Transport Canada regulations. Second, I will make the decision framework more explicit so that it covers more specific scenarios. And last but not least, I will add a paragraph to stress test my framework by attacking it from multiple angles. Thank you for watching.